Hey there, if you want to stay updated on the latest global developments, make sure to follow S News. Support us by subscribing, liking and commenting. Your engagement really helps us bring you more in-depth coverage, so don't forget to stick around for future videos. A dark week looms over the Middle East and Pacific. It looks like a tense and troubling week is ahead for both the Middle East and the Pacific region. The United States and its allies are ramping up pressure from Tehran all the way to Beijing, which now finds itself under intense strain. Former US President Donald Trump warned that America is ready to strike more underground Iranian nuclear facilities if Tehran continues supporting militant groups against Israel. Feeling cornered, Iran immediately reached out to Russia and China for help, hoping to avoid a full-scale war. In Gaza, Hamas-linked forces have been seriously weakened. Israel announced that it has achieved 90% of its war objectives and is planning to eliminate all remaining threats as soon as possible. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, both American and British aircraft carriers launched a massive naval operation. The scale of the exercise made it impossible for China to ignore the strong message from the Western alliance. On top of that, the US Congress recently passed a law banning the use of maps that show Taiwan as part of China. A politically charged move that could cause tensions with Beijing to explode at any moment. Here's a full breakdown of the dramatic developments that could shape the future of the region and the world. Suspected secret Iranian nuclear sites. There's growing belief that Iran still operates secret nuclear sites beyond the main enrichment facilities that were targeted. Recently released satellite images suggest that Iran has a large hidden nuclear facility in a place called Khan, which is reportedly bigger than the ones in Fordow, Natanz and Isfahan. That location could be the next military target. On May 22, 2025, Donald Trump announced that the United States is prepared to launch more strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure if necessary to prevent the country from building nuclear weapons.
His statement came in response to Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who admitted at a press conference in Istanbul that American and Israeli attacks had seriously damaged Iran's key nuclear sites in Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Uranium enrichment has been halted due to the damage, but Iran will not abandon its nuclear program, which has now become a symbol of national pride.
The June 21st attack and US military involvement. The June 21st attack marked the first direct US military involvement in the Israel-Iran conflict, a serious escalation. According to RER News, the US Air Force's 72nd Bomb Squadron dropped 14 massive GPU-57 bunker buster bombs, each weighing 13,500 kilograms on the FD facility, which is buried under a mountain. At the same time, the US Navy launched 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles targeting Natanz and Isfahan. Trump called the mission a major success, claiming Iran's nuclear capabilities had been wiped out. But the reality may be more complicated.
An initial assessment by the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency found that parts of the Fordow site's infrastructure remained intact, and that Iran may have moved some of its enriched uranium stockpile before the strike. This could allow Iran to continue its nuclear activities for several more months.
Although Iran acknowledged the damage, it denied that its program had been completely destroyed.
The head of our atomic energy organization, Hamos Eslami, has stated that the centrifuges in Fordow and Natanz were only slightly damaged and the enriched uranium remains safe.
According to the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, radiation levels did not rise after the attacks, so there's no sign of a leak. However, Israeli intelligence, as quoted by the CIA, believes the attack has set Iran's program back by several years and destroyed key infrastructure. President Trump did reiterate that the United States is not seeking regime change in Iran, but it does demand full nuclear disarmament. He also hinted that sanctions could be lifted if Tehran gives up its nuclear ambitions.
Iran refuses to negotiate and calls the strikes a brutal violation of international law. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has said the country will continue its scientific research despite international pressure.
Desperate for support, Iran announced it would hold talks with Russia and China on Tuesday to try to bypass United Nations sanctions as the deadline for a new nuclear deal approaches.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghi said at a Monday press conference, We are in continuous consultation with both countries to prevent any retaliation or minimize the consequences. He added that Iran has aligned its positions with both Moscow and Beijing and described their relations as strong.
China and Russia both signed the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, a deal brokered under President Obama.
However, that deal failed to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions, especially after the United States pulled out under Trump in 2018, and Iran made further progress during Biden's administration. Now, Iran is threatening to retaliate if the UN Security Council imposes new sanctions on the anniversary of the nuclear agreement. A week after France, Germany and the United Kingdom announced they would reimpose sanctions on Tehran if it doesn't sign a new nuclear deal by the end of August, the situation remains unclear. No one really knows what a new deal should include, and Iran still hasn't resumed nuclear talks with the United States, especially after Washington, in coordination with Israel, carried out major strikes on Iran's top nuclear sites last month.
The original agreement allows for a snapback mechanism. That means any country that signed the 2015 nuclear deal, including Russia and China, can call for reinstating strict international sanctions on Iran if it's found to be in violation.
Because the United States pulled out of the deal during Trump's first term, it no longer has the right to trigger that mechanism. Still, the U.S. has threatened retaliatory sanctions.
Iran now faces a tough decision in August, either return to a comprehensive nuclear deal or risk facing new UN sanctions.
Senior officials in Washington, like Secretary of State Marco Rubio, continue encouraging European allies to use that pressure tool to stop Iran from pushing ahead with its nuclear program.
Hamas is on the verge of being wiped out, at least according to Israeli claims, which say they're close to reaching all their war objectives.
Israel plans to expand its operations in Gaza and Yemen, aiming to destroy enemy forces, including a British warship. During our national security review on February 22nd with top military and intelligence officials, I said Israel is closer than ever to achieving its goals. A statement from my office confirms that 2 active fronts remain in Gaza, and that more work is needed to fully close them out. We must complete all objectives as planned, especially securing intelligence and fully eliminating the Hamas militant group.
The announcement came amid intense fighting in Beit Hanun, central Gaza, as Israel ramped up efforts to destroy armed groups and rescue hostages. At the same time, operations expanded in Yemen to deal with Iranian-backed forces.
Aircraft carriers send a message to China. In the Pacific, 2 British and American carrier groups joined forces on July 18th. The U.S. Navy and Royal Navy released close-up images of their coordinated deterrence missions. This is part of an 8-month-long mission named HAAS.
As part of that, the UK's HMS Prince of Wales teamed up with the USS Washington for joint exercises. The drill is part of Talisman Sabre 2025, a large-scale US-Australia-led military exercise. This year, the drills will extend across waters around Australia and for the first time into the Nujonia region in Pennsylvania.
The May 18th exercise was the first time since 2005 that US and UK nuclear-powered carriers officially participated together in a naval drill that takes place every 2 years. This year's edition runs from July 13th to August 4th.
According to USNI News, it's a multinational operation involving 19 countries and over 35,000 personnel. Alongside the British aircraft carrier were 2 other UK ships, the destroyer AMS Dulles and the oil tanker RFA Tidespring. Other allies joined the exercise as well, including ships from Australia, Norway, Canada and others. US F-35C fighter jets from the USS Washington also flew joint missions. The Prince of Wales carrier carried more than 20 F-35B fighters.
Lawmakers challenged China's claims on Taiwan. The U.S. House of Representatives recently passed a bill that prohibits the Department of Defense from using any maps that show Taiwan as part of China. The bill's sponsor said the move is based on a simple truth: China is China, and Taiwan is Taiwan.
The House had previously asked the State Department to adopt similar practices, and now it's extending that policy to the Department of Defense.
Taiwan's CNA News reported on January 18th that the House passed the 2026 defense budget bill worth over $8.3 trillion, with an amendment introduced by Republican Congressman Tom Tiffany. The amendment bans using government funds to produce or buy any map that falsely includes Taiwan, Kinmen, Matsu, Penghu, Wuchu, Ludao, Hainan, or Lanyu as part of the People's Republic of China.
Tiffany urged lawmakers to support it, saying a similar amendment passed easily in a previous Congress. He emphasized that Taiwan is a sovereign, democratic country with its own leaders, army, foreign policy, and international trade agreements. He added, "No matter what anyone says, Taiwan is not and has never been part of China."
Since the 1970s, the US has followed the One China policy, which acknowledges, but does not endorse, Beijing's claim over Taiwan. Tiffany said this outdated policy should be abandoned. The new map amendment won't eliminate the One China policy entirely, but it requires US agencies to at least use maps that reflect reality.
In 2018, the U.S. Department of Defense mistakenly listed Taiwan as part of China in a nuclear weapons report, and later had to delete it from its website and reissue a corrected version. Pentagon spokesman Jim Thomas called it a publishing error.
Congressman Tiffany has proposed similar changes several times in recent years. The 2022 defense spending bill also included a similar provision, which passed through both chambers of Congress and was signed into law by President Joe Biden. Although the text was softened later, it still prohibited US agencies from using public funds for maps that misrepresent Taiwan's sovereignty. Expanding this map policy to the Department of Defense carries both political and symbolic weight.
Military aid to Taiwan continues. After the Trump administration unfroze $870 million in military aid to Taiwan back in February, U.S. support for Taiwan has only grown.
In a policy statement from the White House Office of Management and Budget, the administration thanked lawmakers for allocating $500 million toward the Taiwan Security Assistance Initiative. This funding will help Taiwan boost its self-defense capabilities. The White House urged Congress to consider raising the amount to $1 billion in the 2026 defense budget.
The statement emphasized that Taiwan plays a critical role in deterring threats across the Indo-Pacific region and ensuring the safety of American personnel during emergencies. As part of the House-passed 2026 defense bill on May 18th, Taiwan is set to receive $500 million in military aid to cover new equipment, services, and training to strengthen its combat readiness and deter potential Chinese aggression.
According to the United Daily News, Taiwanese lawmaker Chao Yi-xiang from the Progressive Party praised the bill, calling it a bipartisan victory that reflects the core consensus of both the US government and people on Taiwan's security. The international community also widely supports peace in the Taiwan Strait and agrees that Taiwan's defenses and regional security investments must be strengthened. Finally, at the end of the video, we want to thank you for listening and encourage you to follow S News and watch future videos. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more